Hello everyone, this is Nicholas. Welcome to a new episode of Next Money Talks. As you may all know, one of the most well-paid jobs in the United States and probably around the world is being an attorney. But how much does an attorney actually make is still a mystery to most people, including myself. So today we are honored to have Travis, a highly experienced and well-respected attorney in Los Angeles, to give us full transparency to help us solve this mystery. Travis, thank you very much for doing this interview. Before we start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
It's a pleasure being here, Nick. Thank you for inviting me. Briefly, about myself, I am an IP attorney, which means I specialize in legal aspects of trademarks, copyrights, patents, and litigation involving one or more of those three subject matters. I started my legal career as a patent attorney, and during that time I prepared and prosecuted patent applications for clients ranging from software companies to large manufacturers of electronics. I did that for a year and a half, and then I switched to IP litigation. So lawsuits involving patent infringement, trademark infringement. And I did that for several years before I moved into my current position as an in-house counsel, which means I work in the legal department of a corporation.
First of all, what's the difference between an attorney and a paralegal?
Well, attorneys ordinarily have to, after getting a bachelor's degree, have to go through 3 years of law school training and get a JD degree, which is short for Juris Doctor. After that, one has to pass a bar exam, which is administered by the State Bar Association of each state, and only then can one call oneself an attorney or a lawyer. Those terms are used interchangeably. Paralegals do not have a JD degree. They do not have state bar license, but they are sometimes more experienced than lawyers themselves in particular areas of the law, especially when it comes to the procedural aspects of handling a lawsuit.
So what does it take to be an attorney? How much does a law degree cost in university?
So bear in mind, I went to law school roughly 10 years ago, around 2010. So tuition back then was in a private law school, which was where I attended. The tuition was $40,000 a year back then. So over 3 years' time, that's $120,000. And then most law schools are full-time, so there is no steady stream of income while you are in school, and really it's very hard to hold down any job when you have to go to class and do your homework, so that law school pretty much consumes all of your time and sometimes free time. So you have to pay for room and board and books. Roughly, that's maybe $60,000 a year, which is actually, that would be the cheapest estimate. So over 3 years' time, $180,000, rounded up $200,000. So that was 10 years ago. Nowadays, maybe we just multiply by 50%. So instead of 180,000, maybe 250,000.
I watched the Netflix series Better Call Saul, Jimmy, who is the main character in the series, got his law degree from a community college, studying part-time. Is it really possible?
I don't believe it is. Now, the usual route to becoming a lawyer is after getting your bachelor's, go to law school for 3 years, and then sitting for the bar exam. So that's 99% of lawyers take that route. There are exceptions, I hear, but they are far and away very rare. Like I heard Kim Kardashian, she can become a lawyer without going to law school because she is doing some kind of an apprenticeship. Now, I didn't even know that was possible before. But I don't think you can depend on that for becoming a lawyer. And community colleges do not offer JD degrees. They offer associate degrees. So I don't think that is. I don't think that sounds plausible.
So after finishing a law degree, how much can one expect for an entry-level job? And how much can he or she expect after passing the bar exam?
So you won't be able to find a job as a lawyer without passing a bar exam. In fact, it is illegal to practice law without license. Okay. So, but you can work as a paralegal before you pass your state bar exam. Now, after you have your JD and legal license, the range of income is actually quite wide. So the scope of law is the scope of society. So you have lawyers in all different capacities. You have people who go into public service. So those are people who work at the DA's office or for any kind of government entity, or those who go into non-profit. So those are generally known as public service, and they make roughly 40 to 60K per year. And then you have people go into private practice, so that includes law firms primarily. And there are small law firms and big law firms. The bigger the law firm, the higher the income. So when I graduated back in 2011, the 100 biggest law firms in the US paid their entry-level lawyers $160,000 a year. So I think that number has most likely increased to 200,000 as we sit here today. So that is, I think, the upper limit you can expect after graduation. If you go to a smaller law firm, you can expect to get paid maybe in the $100,000 range. Okay. Also, it depends where you are. You get paid more in Los Angeles than you would in Ohio, for example. And then a small minority of lawyers, they go into solo practice right after law school. For me personally, I think it's much better to go into a law firm where you can be supervised by much more experienced lawyers, because unfortunately law school does not prepare one for the practice of law. It teaches you where to find the information that you need to practice law, but just because someone went to law school doesn't mean that person can walk into court and know where everything is, what procedure to follow, what format to draft your briefs in. So all of that will come with practice. I guess that's why they call it practicing law, because you're really you're starting from scratch after law school. Law school is very good for teaching you the theory behind everything, but it does not really tell you how to practice. That's why I recommend going to a law firm after law school so you can get the training that you need. And also, if you mess up, a more experienced lawyer, will have your back. And in addition to everything, really, your work product is reviewed by a more experienced lawyer. Otherwise, if you're working by yourself and you mess up a case, then there's no one really to catch you when you fall, and it is possible for you to get penalized for malpractice.
Okay, a follow-up question. So can one take the bar exam right after finishing his or her law degree?
Yes, you can take the bar exam as soon as you graduate with a JD degree.
Okay, so let's say if that person keeps failing the bar exam, he or she needs to keep working as a paralegal, right? So how much should a paralegal get paid?
Okay, so the bar exam is offered every February and every July. And you can take the bar exam as many times as you fail. But ordinarily, if you fail it, the more times you fail, the more unlikely you will pass it on the next try. So the passage rate in California, where I am, for instance, is hovering around 50%. It's the lowest in the country. And a lot of people, because they can't pass California bar, they go to another state where the passage rate is a lot higher. And that's okay if you practice federal law. Meaning, you can practice federal law in California with a license from a different state, but you can't legally practice California law in California without a California bar license. Okay, so let's say you keep taking the bar exam and you keep failing it, and in the meantime you are working as a paralegal. So how much income can you expect? Well, paralegals, I've only known a few paralegals, so I can't speak for the whole universe of paralegals, but I would expect them to make maybe half of what their legal counterparts make. So maybe somewhere around 60,000, 70,000 to start, and then perhaps senior paralegals can make close to 6 figures.
So how's the career path looks like as an attorney? Let's say 5 years and 10 years down the road, how much can one expect to get paid?
Well, it really depends which sector of the legal industry one works in. So if you work in private practice, meaning a law firm, so like I said, if you start off in a big law firm, the entry-level salary is going to be around 180,000, 20,000 a year. So after 10 years and you make partner, and that's generally how long it takes to make partner at a big law firm. You go in as an associate and you work your way up to senior associate, and then managing associate, and then partner. So if you are a partner at a major law firm, like top 100 in the US, you can expect to make, I would say, $500K a year minimum. Okay, unless your law firm is not doing very well. Because partners, they don't earn a salary, they earn equity. So after all the costs are taken out, then the rest is distributed amongst the partners. Now, because, and this is an interesting phenomenon, in law firms today, there are way more partners than there should be. So ordinarily, the partner to associate ratio should be perhaps 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, or even more. However, the reality is, because there were a lot of lawyers A lot of lawyers started their careers in the 80s and early 90s, and they're now partners. And there are much fewer lawyers who started, in my generation. Because of that imbalance, there are a lot more partners today. And in a lot of law firms, the ratio of partners to associates can be 1-to-1. So it's much harder to make partner nowadays. It used to take only 4 or 5 years. Now it takes 10 years. And even when you do make partner, you don't make equity partner. You have to be a salaried partner at first. So not only are you making salary, but you have to bring in business at the same time. So it's a lot of pressure for those young budding partners. They have to juggle getting their hours done and also bring in enough clients to make it to the next step, which is equity partnership.
So how can one specialize in certain areas such as IP like yourself? And what's the most popular area to be specialized these days?
So now, when I started law school, I always thought that I wanted to be a litigator. But during the course of law school, I realized that I had an advantage when it came to patent law, because patent law is a niche area in the legal profession, and patent lawyers need to get an additional licensure, which is the USPTO registration. And only people with technical degrees, math, hard sciences, or engineering, can take the USPTO registration exam. And when I say USPTO, I'm talking about the US Patent and Trademark Office. So you have to be a USPTO registered attorney before you can prepare and prosecute patents before the USPTO. And so most people who go to law school have humanities or liberal arts backgrounds. So only a minority of law school students have hard science or engineering backgrounds. So that automatically makes patent law a hot area because of the laws of supply and demand. And also patent lawyers make, on average, they make more than other legal practices. So I changed directions to patent law during my last year of law school, and I wanted to find, to pursue a career in patent law upon graduation. However, when I graduated in 2011, the economy was just about to hit rock bottom, and law firms started to take very conservative approaches to hiring. As a matter of fact, the 1 year after I graduated, I think the top 100 law firms in the United States fired about 100,000, was it 100,000 or 10,000 legal professionals? I mean, that's lawyers and paralegals combined. So that it was, the job market was not very optimistic around that time, and I could not find a patent attorney position that I liked. And so therefore I was a victim of my circumstances, and I ended up taking a litigation job offer, which is ironic because that's what I originally wanted to do. So I had several offers, but the litigation offer was the most well remunerated. So I took that. I worked in litigation for a year, and then while doing that, I studied and passed the USPTO registration, and then I moved into the patent practice of my law firm. I practice patent law, i.e. preparing and prosecuting patent applications for about a year and a half. And I realized patent law was not for me. Because it's such a niche area, the only thing you know how to do is to communicate with the USPTO to get these patent applications through to allowance and then finally to issuance. But outside of that, you know nothing about. Like, I was completely ignorant about contracts. I didn't know how to read a contract or how to write a contract. I was completely ignorant of employment law. I didn't know. By that time, I only had 1 year of litigation under my belt, so I was not well versed in the procedural and substantive aspects of litigation. So I did not feel like a real attorney. And my friends and family members would ask me questions about these areas I didn't know, and I had no way of answering them. So each time I had to go to Google or LexisNexis and research answers to their questions. So I decided to move back to litigation. And by that time I had lateraled into a new law firm, and at that law firm I started with litigation, and I remained in that role for several years before my current role as an in-house legal counsel.
So what's the most popular area to be specialized in the United States these days? Immigration law, divorce law, or,
So law always keeps pace with what's happening in the economy. So when I graduated in 2011. Before that point, I would say the decade before my graduation, foreign investment, capital finance, pretty much everything under the corporate law umbrella that related to international and cross-border transactions, those practice areas were really hot because a lot of money was pouring into China and other BRIC countries, so companies needed lawyers to help push those deals through. And so IPO attorneys, for instance, were very in demand at that time. But nowadays, today it's 2020 and the economy is doing well, but everybody feels the economy is due for correction. Those companies are taking a more conservative approach, and there are less and less IPOs nowadays. Last year, I don't think any IPO debuted that caused much excitement, and this year I haven't heard of anything on schedule to go to the market. So I'm a little removed from what's going on in law schools. I'm no longer looking for a job, so I can't really answer that question with any degree of accuracy. But if the economy is doing bad, then I would expect bankruptcy law to be doing well. If a lot of people are coming to the US and going through the immigration system, then immigration lawyers would be in much demand. Like a few years ago, EB-5 was really a hot item, and a lot of immigration lawyers were doing that, handling EB-5 applications. But nowadays, I think the USCIS is cracking down on those projects, so I don't think that is as hot now as it was a few years ago.
Alright, last question. I know that you also have a YouTube channel, so can you tell us a little bit more about your channel?
Yeah, sure. I started a YouTube channel very recently, about a month ago. It's called IP Lawyer, and I've noticed that a lot of people have misconceptions about what a trademark is. How do you apply for copyright protection? What can you expect when you get served with a lawsuit? What is the process of a lawsuit? How do you retain an attorney? How can you tell if your attorney is any good? So there are a lot of questions floating up there. And so my goal for this channel is to demystify those areas, those subject areas, and help people understand how the law can help them in their daily lives or in their business ventures. So I would say just the basics that you need to know as a functioning member of society or as a successful business owner. So I hope my videos will be helpful to people, and certainly if you have any burning questions yourself, you can put them in the comment area. I read all comments, and then I can structure my future videos around those common points of inquiry.
Okay, if you wanna check out Trevor's YouTube channel, please click at the link in the description. Trevor, thank you so much for doing this interview.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.